Ok, da vil jeg gjerne ønske velkommen til pressekonferansen her i vårt Europop-senter på Vollebekk. Det er jo en gammel tradisjonsrik bygning med Aftenpostens gamle trykkeri, som dere sikkert har sett. Dere ser også at det er utrolig mye utstyr her inne. Video Products leverer multiplexer-utstyr som da siler ut videosignaler fra EuroRingen. Asterix, de har overoppsynet med selve den tekniske koordineringen. Og Snell & Wilcox, de leverer konvertere som konverterer til HD-TV og output-input til linken vår. Mitt navn er Per Brosår, jeg er daglig leder av KPNQwest Norge. På grunn av gjennomkjøringen av det vi skal gjøre i dag, så tror jeg vi skal ta spørsmål til slutt. Egentlig 2 runder. Man vil få mulighet til å stille spørsmål til Jack McMaster via linken til Stockholm, hvor vi skal se etter hvert. Etter det kan vi ta lokale spørsmål hvis det er ønskelig. Da skal jeg gjerne få introdusere Rhett Williams, som er vår Chief Marketing Officer i KPNQwest. Vær så god, Rhett.
I think we have a microphone problem, so whatever this one is. Thank you. I'm Brett Williams. First of all, my apologies. My part will be in English because my Norwegian is truly awful, and I apologize for that. We're here to announce a significant milestone in KPNQwest's development, as well as in the rollout of broadband capacity and services for Nordic businesses, etc. The milestone that we're talking about here is the lighting of the EuroRing. If you take a look around, this is kind of a strange place to have a conference, but we'll explain why we're here a little later on as we go through this. And we're lighting the Nordic ring today, which is the longest ring of the KPNQwest EuroRings fiber optic network. It's also been the most difficult and the most challenging to construct. As a matter of fact, we hope that a little later on we'll actually be able to light the ring while you're present. We'll be linking up this meeting through a HD TV link back to Stockholm, where my boss, Jack McMaster, is giving the exact same presentation as we speak right now. So the people running around with telephones, etc., are trying to make sure that we stay synchronized with each other in terms of the timing. And on that, I'd like to hand that back over to Per.
Ok, det som også er spesielt hyggelig akkurat nå er jo da å fortelle at vi har inngått en kontrakt med Enator om levering av et ATM-basert nettverk. Dette nettverket vil dekke 10 byer. Det vil dekke hovedstedene i Norden, Baltikum, samt også få med Tyskland, Belgia og England.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Nordic ring itself. Now, there's a lot of information in your press packets, but I'm kind of going to walk you through this. It's a 4,500-kilometer ring, and it spans Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. And it links back to the rest of the EuroRings at our German ring in Hamburg. It's the 5th ring of 7, and it provides very high-speed connectivity between Stockholm, Copenhagen, Gothenburg, Helsinki, Malmö, and Oslo. The network itself is 96 fiber strands, each one capable of delivering about 80 colors a strand at speeds of up to 10 gigabits. And what that means is that we're able to deliver 100 terabits of bandwidth direct to customers. If you were to calculate every man, woman, and child in the Nordics environment, we'd be delivering about 4.2 megabits per second of bandwidth to each of those people. The interesting thing is not just the technology, but how it reaches the rest of the world, because now businesses here in the Nordics no longer need to be only Nordic. They can also connect to the rest of the globe at a very high speed. The Nordic ring links seamlessly to 44 other European cities through our fully owned 15-country pan-European network, and that in turn is linked to our parent company Quest's 150-city network in North America also. We have about 240 peering agreements which tie this network to other networks around the world, giving us truly global reach. And for businesses that are interested in a seamless connection with the rest of the world, we think that we offer a very, very credible alternative, and we'll show you a little demonstration a little later on. I've told you a little bit about the technical specs, but the really important thing about this are the people and the customers that are driving that. And I think it's important for Per to walk us through that.
Selv om vi da åpner ringen i dag, så har vi allerede mange store kunder. Kan da for eksempel nevne Siemens, Statoil, F-Secure, Partech, Alma Media og ikke minst Nokia. Dette er jo alle veldig kjente bedrifter, og det at vi nå åpner ringen gir oss nå mulighet til å gi disse kundene en enda bedre tjeneste. Og det vi også I stand til å gjøre nå, jo da å gå mye tyngre ut I markedet og selge tjenestene til andre ut I markedet. Men hvem vel egentlig mer egnet til å si noe om nytten av høyhastighetsnettverk enn Per Morten Hoff, generalsekretæren I IKT Norge? Jeg sier velkommen til deg, Per Morten, og for å holde timingen så det viktig at et spørsmål også til Per Morten tas etter selve seansen. Vær så god, Per Morten.
Takk skal du ha, Per. Hadde dette vært en vei eller en tunnel, så hadde det jo vært minst en minister her, og minst noen snorer som var blitt klippet. Vi føler vel at dette vel så historisk som tunneler og veier på Vestlandet eller andre steder I landet hvor det måtte være. Det som skjer her nå I dag, det at vi I ferd med å gjøre Norge litt større, og vår vei ut blir også litt bredere. Så behovet for båndbredde har vi jo sett har eksplodert, og jeg tror at kravene til det vil bli vesentlig større I tiden som kommer. Hadde vi sagt bare for noen år siden at vi ville ha etterspørsel etter den type båndbredde, så hadde vi bare ristet på hodet. Det kommer nye tjenester og flere brukere som definitivt gjør at dette her på vei. Så vi fra bransjen og som opptatt av bredbånd og at Norge ikke skal henge etter, men faktisk da skal være på hugget når det gjelder bredbånd. Vi synes jo dette meget positivt, selvfølgelig for KPNQwest som bedrift, men minst like positivt for de som skal bruke dette her. Som de fleste av dere kanskje kjenner til, så har jo regjeringen laget en handlingsplan for bredbånd I Norge, som svært ambisiøs, og vi jo veldig opptatt av at de målene skal nås, og vi veldig opptatt av at brukerne skal oppleve bredbånd som noe positivt. Det jo faktisk et stort tankekors at, sånn som vi har sett I dag, så har det jo vært veldig mange kan vi kalle det strupinger på båndet. Det kan kanskje gå fort til noen steder, men så stopper også farten opp, og skal det ut av Norge, så har det ofte gått svært sakte. Så jeg føler at dette en stor dag for IT-næringen I Norge, og jeg tror det vil kunne ha mye å si også for norsk næringsliv. Så jeg ønsker KPNQwest lykke til med dette her, og vi håper virkelig at dette vil være til glede for norsk næringsliv, også for utlendinger som skal oppsøke Norge via nettet, og for alle kommende brukere. Så gratulerer med dagen.
Tusen takk skal du ha, Per Morten. Det vi nå skal gjøre å vise dere litt om hva vi har gjort for å bygge ringen. Vi har en liten film, så min oppfordring til dere bare len dere tilbake, slapp av og se på det som nå kommer.
From space, the world is aglow with the light of human activity. Starting today, there's a new light in the Nordics.
The light is carrying all our data.
A fiber ring connecting all the Nordic countries.
By far the most technically challenging of all the rings that we're constructing.
The distance from where you are to anywhere else on the KPNQwest network has just vanished. After a year and a half of planning and building and 250 million euros in construction costs, Norway, Sweden, Finland and Denmark have a new data network capable of carrying 100 terabits per second. The new Nordic rings are part of the KPNQwest EuroRings, already providing reliable high-capacity data links across Europe and onto the extensive Quest network in North America.
There's a lot of capacity within the region and within the countries. It's always been a problem getting enough bandwidth out of the countries into mainland Europe and especially to the United States. It really also completes a circle for me personally, having started up our operation in Finland 10 years ago in a very bandwidth constrained environment where it was very hard to get any capacity out of the country. And that's always been true for the Nordic countries. There's always been all these wonderful technological things going on, everything from the mobile revolution to the gigabit home connections, everything, but there's never been enough bandwidth out of the region.
Today, KPNQwest would like to introduce you to just a few of the hundreds of people who built the Nordic Rings.
The challenging thing is that you have to focus all delivery times to one and the same period. So your pops have to be ready when your cable is in your ducts, when your repeaters are ready, and they all fall together, enabling us to put in our optical equipment so that we can lit the entire route.
Part is ready, then we can go on this way.
The first thing that we do is we look to which cities we want to go, so where we want to have presence. The major cities in the Nordics, that's Hamburg, that is Copenhagen, Oslo, Stockholm and Helsinki. The next thing is the route to come into these major cities. After that we start to go out for contracts, and very important issue is to get permits for the various stretches where we have the route running around.
Okay, thank you.
The key to have it done was to get a company who was very familiar with the local authorities to get the lease agreements in place and in order to get the permits in place.
Hans van Vaas took the early lead in negotiating with companies like Planet and Emerson, who handled the permits and building of the repeater stations.
The stretch between Malmö and Stockholm.
Repeater stations are necessary to amplify the light every 80 kilometers along the route.
We will start as fast as possible to do the site acquisition, because that is the main critical element with the permits and the lease. Once this is out of the way, we will do a design of all of the sites and then construction of it in time for.
Here's the time schedule we're working with. And we have started preparing the documentation, production planning.
Scandinavian people, I've learned, they are very open, they are good communicators, and they come after the promises. Working in Scandinavia was very pleasant because of this attitude of the people working over there, and because of the fact that if you made an agreement, and an agreement you had a delivery date, you knew that that delivery date would be met unless you had very special circumstances that it couldn't be met.
I can't see many changes.
There is no possibility not fulfilling the time target set up, because your success in this market, or KPNQwest's success in this market, is very much depending on time to the market. And we would like to contribute to that success by being in time on our share of the business.
When you take a look at the Nordic Ring in particular, and you look at its importance in overall European economic circles, and then you add to that the role that the Nordics have played as the early adopters of high technology bandwidth services and mobile services in Europe, it became very clear that despite the daunting challenge of a 4,500 kilometer build, almost island hopping in certain places, lots of water to be crossed, lots of difficult terrain to be dug, that was essentially something that had to be done.
The civil works is, in principle, is the very rough contracting works. Everything in the civil works is quite, say, rough. It's building construction. That's also why we have ducts. Ducts are tough elements. You cannot easily demolish them. In the ducts we have our fiber optic cable, which again is a delicate piece of equipment, and that is connected to very delicate equipment and repeaters and pop sites. So that means that in fact the contracting, the civil work part, is rough work. Everything that follows after the civil works, that's the fine-tuned work where we have our services with.
The heart of every optic fiber, the basis of the EuroRings, is thinner than a human hair. The manufacturing tolerances are so fine that they can only be seen under a microscope. The EuroRings technology sends 80 colors of light simultaneously over a single fiber. Each of those 80 colors can carry 10 gigabits of information, and there are 96 fibers in the Nordic Rings cable.
Nordic ring with our Germany ring, our Italian ring, the French ring and the UK ring. So that gives us a big advantage for our customer. So we are not afraid for the other companies who are lay these ducts for their own use.
We are in Finland now, in the city called Espoo. We are around Helsinki. You can see the woods here. And we are building here. KPNQwest is building actually a house here. And this will be the Euroring pop of Helsinki. And I can also introduce to you our biggest customer, Nokia, over there. So, just a coincidence, we have 30 meters from our pop to Nokia, their main telecom buildings. And we are laying on the ground tubes, 12 tubes to go over here from our pop to those buildings. And we can sell a lot of our services to them, really a lot.
One of the major challenging issues on the Nordics, deflecting from the other EuroRings, is the fact that we were installing cable in wintertime. In wintertime, Scandinavia is not like wintertime in the rest of Europe. It's extreme harsh conditions. We sometimes experience temperatures of minus 20 degrees centigrade during the day, by which we can't blow fiber. We can blow fiber up to minus 10 degrees centigrade with special precautions. There was steam injected in the ducts. We had charcoals laid on the soil in order to defrost the soil and allowing to make pits and excavations for the fiber blowing works.
They start to blow, they pull it out from the wheel and blow it over 1,500 meters to here. Here is another engine. You see the compressor and the cable jet. They pick the cable that come from there over 1,500 meters. They picked it up. Then you see the cable make a loop inside and they pull it in the jet again and blow it more, 1,500 meters. They really have to work hand in hand, because if he have a stop here, that the cable not run so good, he must inform them immediately, take down the pressure, that the cable not run so quickly, because you see now, he does not run so good, then you see the wheel become bigger. Then he have to regulate it, that it go in furthermore. Yeah, you see now the wheel calm down. And therefore, that they have to work hand in hand. It must go very precisely.
The Nordic rings may be 4,500 kilometers long, but it is put into the ground in segments of 6 kilometers. All these segments must be spliced together.
Alles muss vom Grund auf aufgebaut werden. Man kann nicht sagen, dass wir schmeißen die Kabel da rein und das funktioniert. Das geht nicht. Das muss alles gestückelt werden. Alle 6 Kilometer müssen Muffen gemacht werden. Und diese Arbeiten müssen auch gemacht werden, bevor man halt zu der schönen Arbeit kommt, zum Repeater zum Beispiel.
KPNQwest adheres to stringent local environmental restrictions wherever it installs its cable or repeater stations.
We have repeater stations in the Nordics which look green in Sweden and look brown in Denmark. And that's purely due to regulatory issues.
Also ich persönlich habe den Auftrag, die Spleißungen, die von den Spleißmonteuren hergestellt werden, zu kontrollieren. Und wir messen in 1310 Nanometer und 1550 Nanometer Wellenlängen. Oh, ein Spleiß, der ist nicht in Ordnung. Hey, Vorsicht! Aber ich habe gerade die Faser 65 gemessen. Die ist bei mir in den Ich sehe mich in meiner Person als ausgewählte Person an, weil diesen Job hat nicht jeder die Ehre zu machen. Und es ist ein schöner Job, ein wichtiger Job und verantwortungsvoller Job, weil durch meine Messung entscheidet sich, ob die Muffen in Ordnung sind, und wenn alle Muffen, die durch mich gemessen und für in Ordnung befunden wurden, wird erst dann eine Strecke verkauft und an den Kunden weitergegeben. Mache ich Fehler, wird dieser Fehler immer weitergetragen. Also sage ich einfach, ich habe einen wichtigen Job.
And that brings us back to the present day. There's always a little bit of Hollywood in these things, as you can imagine, but I got to tell you, we've had people working very, very hard in some really amazingly difficult conditions for the last year and a half or so. The good news is that it's done, and we are now in the process of turning it up for actual ready-for-service environment. The room, I told you earlier that I was going to explain to you why we chose this rather inelegant place to have a press conference, and the reason is really simple. You're sitting on top of the ring itself. I mean, this is where it comes into these cabinets here, what actually comes in underneath us, and then it's spliced out and distributed across all the various cabinets and technology. So that's essentially what you're going on here. And there's some interesting things that you might want to think about. You saw how fine the actual fiber is itself. What you're sitting on here is connected to 500,000 kilometers of that kind of fiber, which we have laid all through the continent of Europe and across the rest of the Nordics. That is enough fiber, I am told. I have not done the math, but I am told that that's enough to go around the world 14.5 times. So that's a great deal of fiber that we're putting down into the ground to make sure that it's all connected from that perspective. And what's interesting is that in a little while we're going to try and light this thing to Stockholm, which is 500 kilometers away, and we're going to try to do a high-definition TV link back and forth between ourselves. So I think that one of the areas that you're going to be seeing is some of this equipment that's around us. I don't know how much experience you all have with live television broadcasting, but if you've watched it on screens like this, you'll notice that in general it's kind of a little grainy, etc. What you're going to see here in just a little while, I think, I hope, will positively surprise you. And we think again that this is the kind of technology and the kind of applications that this kind of fiber optic rings is going to bring to us. There's always a lot of questions about, you're putting so much bandwidth down, what are you going to use it for? Ask me the question after you see this, assuming it works. Don't you think, Per? I think.
Right. And maybe I should tell something about these rooms that we are in now. And I take that in Norwegian. Vi har ca. 800 kvadratmeter her. Og bare for å illustrere litt av det vi har gjort her, så har vi da 87 tonn med batterier i rommet bak her, i tilfelle strømmen skulle gå. Bare batterikabelen er på 15 kilometer for å gi nok strøm ut hit. Og batterikablene veier faktisk til sammen 27 tonn, bare kablene. Så vi måtte faktisk da inn med 15 tonn ekstra jern i gulvet for å få bygget til å bære. Vi har 144 flasker Inergen stående der ute for å slukke brann hvis det skulle skje. Og pass hodet deres, over oss står det 15 tonn med kjøleutstyr oppå taket her. Så det er relativt store investeringer som også har gjort i den type utstyr. Så det er ikke bare elektronikk som fyller rommet og som lager ringen, men det er også veldig mye annet rundt det. I just told something about what we have put into the room regarding batteries, etc. So
I got to tell you something. This kind of building is an electrical company's dream customer, okay? Because I mean, you can only imagine what the size of the electric bills are every month that comes through this place like this. The interesting thing, again, we're replicating these all over Europe, as we've talked about. We showed you some of the maps earlier, but there's some other things that you kind of need to understand. Historically, the conversation has always been about what do you do with this? What do you do in terms of applications? And what we believe, and we are seeing it proved out, is that the more bandwidth we make available to people, the more bandwidth they use up. That's essentially the same thing as we've seen in the PC environment, whereas PC got more and more powerful, the applications got more and more complex, and we're using up all the new power and processing and the memory that was available. We believe that the exact same phenomenon is happening with the environment for fiber optic cable. The other question that has occurred to us in the past is, if you're a local business customer, which is the majority of our historic customers, you're connected at 2 megabits, okay, assuming it's working fine, what's the so what of this? I mean, why does it matter to you? The reason it matters is really simple. If we believe that 60 to 70% of any Norwegian businesses' internet communications touch international destinations. So I think that's an important environment. Now, it's time for us to see if this thing is working. The magicians in the back of the room are saying that it's okay. I'm going to try this the old-fashioned way first, all right? So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get a hold of my boss, Jack McMaster, who's sitting in Stockholm right now. Excuse me a moment while I try and get him on the phone. Let's hope he answers. It's ringing. Hey, Jack, how are you? I'm good. I can tell you my blood pressure just went down. All right, so it's a good thing that you answered. I'm going to be delighted to do that. Let's see if the wizards in the back will throw the button for me so we can go live. I think we're going to see up here on the screen. Hopefully this is going to work out here in terms of switching. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my boss, Jack McMaster. Hey, Jack, how are you? Yeah.
Hello, Rhett. How are you?
Good.
Hello,
Let's stop giving Telenor any more money, okay?
Okay, I'm going to drop the phone. Okay.
You know, it's really, it's amazing when you kind of think about this. Jack has been in Stockholm doing exactly the same presentation that I've been giving you, obviously not with the same guests, because that would have been truly an amazing trick. But in terms of the quality of what we're seeing, etc., I want you to take a look at what you're seeing here. This is live. It's from Stockholm. It's coming over the fiber optic cables which are being brought into this building right here, and it's being fed directly into the video equipment that you're seeing there. So it's pretty amazing as far as we're concerned. Jack?
Yeah. Rhett, I want everyone to know that Rhett is not in the next room. He actually is in Oslo, and this is actually running over the EuroRings network that we lit. So it's proof positive that the KPNQwest network in the Nordics is lit and ready for service. And I think, Rhett, you have some interesting facts about the amount of bandwidth we're consuming today.
I do, but before I do that, just to prove to our friends in Stockholm, and Job, I need you to get a picture of this thing. All right, this is today's VG. No offense to anybody in this room that doesn't work for VG. All right, but just so you get a feeling. I'm always reminded of the first time men walked on the moon. They swore it was in the California desert, you know, and it was this thing. We just wanted to prove that we're actually separate. Some interesting facts. This transmission is using more capacity than all of Telenor's international voice traffic today will use. Just so you get a sense of what we're putting at the disposal of customers right now. So if someone wanted to do this and hook their customers, this is the kind of solution that we have. So we're pretty pleased with that. It's 270 megabits for those who are technically inclined, and it's a concatenated STM4 connection between here and our place in Stockholm. Jack?
Yeah. I'd also point out to folks that the capacity that we're putting into the network in the Nordics here has the capability of delivering over 1 billion A4 pages a second. That capacity should be able to empower a whole series of new mobile and e-commerce applications where the Nordics has essentially taken a lead, I think, both in Europe and from North America. We believe, obviously, in the fact that we're building this network, in the notion that as we make bandwidth available, businesses are going to continue to want to use it and find creative ways to make their economies grow. In some places in Europe, we've had to explain our belief in the need for bandwidth. Fortunately, because of the early adopter phase here in the Nordics, we have not had to explain to people why it is bandwidth is so important. And what I would say to you that I have found, despite some people wondering about bandwidth glut, that to date, the over 100,000 KPNQwest customers across Europe have never come back to us and said that they wanted to slow down their application because they had too much bandwidth. It's actually quite the opposite. The KPNQwest strategy, frankly, is to build the highest quality, macro capacity, fiber optic network across Europe and link it to North America. In the history of European communications, it is the first asset of its kind. It is the largest network ever undertaken to be built, and it will be built first. A way to think about networking in Europe in the short 100-year history of communications technology is that Europe has been served over the last 100 years by a series of narrowband, circuit-switched voice networks that have been controlled and directed by nation-state PTTs or monopolies. And what KPNQwest has broken through in our vision is to be the first company to link 50 European capitals together with one seamless next-generation fiber optic network. We believe that that network, when provided high-quality, low-cost bandwidth, will fuel a wave of economic development that will be similar to what we saw at the start of the century with the petroleum economy, and most recently, as we saw in the Silicon Revolution in PC computing. Our belief is that another generation of technological change is about to take place. It will be driven by the availability of high-quality, low-cost bandwidth and be driven by what we believe is the next mega trend in computing, which is companies deciding to move from private computing architectures, where they essentially have the computing applications that they use for their enterprise driven to the desktop on a local area network to the PC, to sharing those applications with their customers, with their suppliers, and with their employees on an almost transactional basis. For that to happen, we believe that computing must become scalable and open and be provided in an open network with abundant bandwidth and open computing standards such as cyber centers. The KPNQwest vision is, in fact, that IT and networking are coming together as a result of those two megatrends. And what we believe is that we are going to see many, many, many more applications take place as a result of the new technologies that are happening. Today, we believe that KPNQwest, with the construction of its asset, will be the largest provider of fiber optic services in Europe. Our network will be, as I've said, across 50 cities, 20,000 kilometers. This is the 36th city that we have turned up, and we expect that all 50 cities will be completed by the end of this year. As we've already mentioned, the construction of the fiber optic asset here in the Nordics, that alone is a 250 million euro undertaking and part of a 2.5 billion euro 50-city network and cyber center build project that KPNQwest is going for. Simply put, we believe in the future of this economy, in the future of the next generation technologies that will help fuel it and growth, and we're delighted today to mark this milestone. Rhett, can I ask you to say a few words as well?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Jack. Thank you. If you think about what it is that we're delivering to customers on top of that, you got to think in terms of services. It's good to have the fiber, obviously, because we think that makes a fundamental difference. But you also have to think about services like, for example, managed bandwidth. The capabilities that we deploy with this network allow us to, at a very, very cost-effective environment, deliver managed bandwidth starting at as small as 2 megabits, going up to 10 gigabits per second, and we actually have customers that are using that kind of capability today. Those are the kinds of applications that we think we use a lot of bandwidth and will continue to do that. We're also doing a great deal of work with our IPVPN product set. That is something that we launched in September. We've currently signed over 150 new customers to that across Europe, a number of whom are here in the Nordics, and there's information in your press pack on those various customers. But again, we think that that's a very important capability to deploy. And again, it's because of the availability of our own network in terms of the cost efficiency. We're also doing, as you can imagine here, a lot of video streaming. Right here in Norway, the press conference is being taped and will be streamed in about an hour, so that all of the press that could not attend today will actually be able to pick it up on the web and take a look and see what we said or didn't say, as the case may be. We're developing hosting environments. If you think about the room that we're in and the room that Jack's in Stockholm, you can take a look at those and imagine those filled with racks of computers, etc. Those are the kinds of environments that Jack was referring to when he talks about the convergence of IT and the networks. We think that in the future, a computer that's not directly physically connected to this kind of dense fiber will not be able to function in the e-commerce world that is deploying all around us. We're also doing things around voice over IP and ATM and a number of other products and services which I'd be delighted to go into in more detail, as I'm sure my colleagues in Stockholm will. But the whole issue from us is about market opportunities. We are currently doing two things. We are becoming the major wholesale provider in Europe. That's a very important piece of our business, and we think it makes a great deal of sense. It leverages the asset that we've put in place and allows us to absolutely continue to build out the network, as Jack has mentioned. But we're also extending our corporate and business offers to more and more customers across this environment. Here in Norway, we have about 4,200 customers who are being served by KPNQwest Norway, of whom Per Broza is the managing director. But across the rest of Europe, we have 100,000 business customers, which is about a 30% increase year over year, and that's a very positive environment. At the end of the day, the technology has to serve the customers, and we think those are the environments that we'll see going forward. Jack, back to you.
Well, thanks very much, Rhett, and thank you everyone in Oslo. I think we are coming now to the continuation of this conversation. I've just been told to keep talking. I would think that one of the things that I would tell you that we believe most about what's happening in the near term is that the future of computing and bandwidth is going to mushroom very, very quickly. Most people today walk around with a handheld device, a mobile device that runs at about 9.6 kilobits a second. And yet, if you take a look at what's happening on the local area networking, most companies are deploying PCs like this that have gigabit hard drives, and gigabit Ethernet seems to be the technology of choice for local area networking. Most companies today, whether they're small businesses or residences, are lucky if they can get 28 kilobits of a connection. We believe that more than 2 megabits per person will be necessary in most homes over the near term. And so we think that this bandwidth-enabled future is a very, very important part of what's happened. As you can see now, the high-definition TV link to Oslo has been terminated. And what I'd like to do now is to walk you through the second phase of the KPNQwest strategy. Because in addition to the network happening here at KPNQwest, which you just saw the live evidence for, we are also building cyber centers, which are scalable hosting facilities across Europe for companies to co-locate their equipment, and where KPNQwest intends to host e-commerce applications and other forms of electronic commerce. In this building today, which is one of the reasons we asked you to join us, the KPNQwest network linking Stockholm to the rest of Europe terminates. And we have over 10,000 square meters of facility secured in this building that we intend to put into high-definition space that can be used to host the next generation applications. We already have our Munich 10,000 square meter facility, along with London and Paris, open. We have secured this building, a building in Frankfurt, and a building in Milano, which we will be scaling and turning up as the market requires. And we add to that another 10 facilities across Europe of about 1,000 square meters, where KPNQwest has already been hosting many applications. It's again that vision about where the technology is going from a hosting and bandwidth perspective that is driving our strategy. And what I'd like to do now is show you a short 5-minute clip on what the cyber hosting strategy of KPNQwest is. Anthony?
At the turn of the 21st century, information is going underground. Anything that doesn't have to travel physically is converted to data and sent across the world in a fraction of a second as a flash of light. The repositories of this information will be large, fortified and conditioned spaces, strategically placed and connected to the world by nearly unlimited bandwidth. These are the cyber centers of KPNQwest.
Here we have the incoming fibre off the KPNQwest EuroRing backbone. As you can see, it's not an awful lot to look at, but this is the most important place within this building. The bandwidth that we can deliver off this network feeds into the computer halls within this facility and enables us to support our customers on a very, very large scale indeed. This facility and the equipment within this room is acting very much like the main town square of a large city, where all the incoming routes meet together in the middle and traffic is switched around and diverted, interconnecting our customers' platforms. Platforms that represent a whole bunch of different businesses from the world of finance, from the world of industry, from the world of shipping, and from various other market sectors, all of which can be housed very cost effectively in the KPNQwest Cyber Centre.
Here in Munich, in the same space where postal packages were once sorted, Internet packets are now delivered at the speed of light. E-business, just like normal business, needs protection. Whether it's because of the expensive equipment that has to be guarded or the data that needs to stay confidential. A KPNQwest Cyber Center provides a level of security for customers that's virtually impossible for businesses to afford on their own. It's like Fort Knox for e-business. As society becomes more dependent on constant access to information, the fail-safe environment of a cyber center becomes essential for your business. A local power failure will never affect your ability to serve distant customers because KPNQwest cyber centers have full battery and generator backup. There's enough fuel to keep the whole cyber center operating for at least 2 days. You can also choose to have KPNQwest back up your data to tape. To protect against fire, the very early smoke detection system detects smoldering equipment even before there's smoke. Argon gas at high pressure stands ready to extinguish any sudden fire without damaging customer equipment. When successful businesses outgrow their offices, it's disruptive to move to a bigger space. In a KPNQwest Cyber Center, you can grow your information capacity incrementally without any disruption.
There are two things which make a KPNQwest Cyber Centre. One is the scale of the facility itself, which offers a huge amount of space to accommodate vast numbers of computer systems and servers. The other thing is the underlying network built upon our EuroRing fibre optic network. The advances that are taking place today in the fibre optic technology enable us to have virtually unlimited bandwidth available. We are currently running 40 different wavelengths down each particular glass fibre strand within our EuroRing cables, and in the labs today they are working on 100 separate wavelengths. This means that customers in the cyber centre can be delivered huge amounts of bandwidth off our network and enable them to connect into cyberspace in a virtually unprecedented fashion in the modern world.
Okay, I think it gives you an idea of what we're putting in terms of the thing. Now, this is going to be where we go to a little bit different environment. We're going back to Stockholm. We're going to make this an interactive question and answer session.
Thank you very much. I genuinely appreciate you coming out all this way to listen to our story and to watch our propaganda. It's often very hard to get people to visualize when you talk about things like cyber centers or bandwidth or fiber optic networks, what we're really talking about. So hopefully our video presentations today gave you some sense both of the undertaking that we took here in the Nordics, And the large-scale construction project, as well as the extraordinary amount of technical detail required to run something of this magnitude. We're strong believers in the next generation economy and all the growth that is going to come, and we believe so much in that we continue to surge ahead in building this asset. With that, I believe that we're all quite willing and able to take your questions, and so may I turn it over to questions and answers from either audience in Oslo or here in Stockholm. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. The fibers that we have deployed today have the capability technically to cover about 160 colors of fiber optic light at a maximum speed we think of about 40 gigabits per color. Now obviously the lasers that are in operation today cannot reach those levels. Today we believe that we can put technology in place that will drive 80 colors per fiber strand at 10 gig, and we run them at 2.5 gig increments up to 10 gig. And I'm sorry, I'll try to repeat the question next time. Another question? Maybe in Oslo?
Hello, my name is Elin Feste and I'm a reporter at Nettavisen. My question is, with this immense investment in the Nordic Ring, when do you hope to be able to make a profit on this investment, and what kind of revenue and growth do you need to get there?
Well, let me try and help with that. Obviously, when you build something of this magnitude, the investment is extraordinary, and right now I would say that the total investment in the network itself and the lighting of the first fibers is about €1.5 billion, and when you add the product architecture and the IT systems and the cyber centers to it, it's about a €2.5 billion undertaking if you were to start fresh today. KPNQwest is obviously a company that is putting assets in the ground that we believe will throw off revenues and income for many years to come. Last year, KPNQwest had about €460 million of revenue, and this year most analysts would expect KPNQwest to reach about €780 million. We have been stating all along that we are comfortable with those projections, and perhaps most importantly, the first milestone on the path to income and profitability for KPNQwest will be reaching the EBITDA positive level in the fourth quarter of this year. We believe that we will reach that goal in the fourth quarter of this year and become net income positive in the fourth quarter of the year 2002. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Is there another question in this room?
How about here in Oslo?
We've got a question here. Yes, sir. Yeah. The question is, how do we believe that traffic will evolve, traffic types will evolve in our network over the next couple of years? And I think in one word, what I would say, Rhett, is that it will go faster. It's clear to me that IP-based networking is the future. You know, the old circuit-switched technology or ATM technologies or frame relay technologies are going to give way to, I think, the IP-based networking. So I think IP VPNs and IP-based technologies will be where it goes. It will be a packet-based issue. My guess is we're going to watch a slow but I think inexorable transformation of circuit-switched networks to IP-based networks over the next 5 to 15 years. Eventually, I believe that there won't be any voice networks. There'll simply be voice as an application riding on IP networks. And if you understand a little bit about what that means, it means obviously to overcome some of the inherent issues associated with packet technology, especially as it relates to serving voice, you must compensate with speed. And that is why we have made such a tremendous investment in 10 gigabit speeds, because we believe that we can compensate for some of the inadequacies of IP as a voice-based technology with speed. Rhett, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, Jack, there's not a whole lot to add to that one. But I think the one thing that I would definitely make sure of is that, again, the other piece that we see is the ability to seamlessly move information. A number of people in the audience today are actually doing their reporting on a Palm, which was interesting because they were typing it in and getting ready to send it out. I think that the capability to have always live kinds of communication with your network devices will be enabled by this kind of fiber technology. I think that's a really big piece of what we're seeing going forward. And the really neat thing about living up in the Nordics is that this is where that technology always gets deployed first. The people here are simply much more adventuresome in terms of trying something new. I think that's a really positive environment. I think I've got another question here, Jack, out in the audience.
Okay.
Hello again. This is obviously a good product for large customers. Is this only for the largest business customers, or how small can your customers be?
Actually, we think that it's a product that works for both, because again, historically, the barriers to small customers using this kind of technology was scarcity, and scarcity meant very high costs. As we begin to deploy this kind of capability, the cost of using it falls significantly, so that much smaller customers than was historically the case can actually use it. So I think that's a very positive trend for smaller customers also.
Another question here? Okay. Doesn't seem to be any more questions here, Rhett. How about in Oslo?
No, I think we're all done here. So, Jack, it was good to see you. I guess we'll see you tonight, right? So,
yeah, looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks,
okay.
Jack.
Thanks, Rhett.
Bye.
Okay.
I wanted to do that all day. That was kind of a fun thing. So I think it's important for us to all realize this looks easy. I can tell you that this crew of people has been working for days trying to make sure that this was all going to work.
I'm not.
Trying to make this work. So I think that's a very positive thing. Let me turn this back over to Per and move forward.
Yes, da vi for så vidt ferdig med den formelle biten. Hvis dere ønsker å stille spørsmål til meg eller Per Morten for den sakens skyld, eller til Steffen på salgssiden og Svein Harald Fossum på teknisk side, så står vi til deres disposisjon fremover nå. Men det kan vi kanskje ta litt sånn mer i en uformell atmosfære, hvis dere ønsker det. Men det opp til dere. Ok?